After a 55-point closeout win on the road, the Cavs have put an end to one of the most dominant first-round performances we've ever seen. In this series, they outscored the Heat by 122 points, making it the single most lopsided matchup in NBA history. That unrivaled differential was the result of an all-time level of team offense. In the first round, the Cavs had an offensive rating of 136.6, which isn't just the highest of any series in NBA history, it's the highest of any 4-game stretch ever recorded in the playoffs. And it's not like it was just one or two players carrying everyone else along with them. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland both played well, but they also got big contributions from Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, and maybe most importantly Ty Jerome, who quietly had one of the best first-round performances of any player in the league. Jerome was a finalist for 6th Man of the Year because of everything he does as a ball handler for Cleveland's bench unit. With the way they do their rotations, Mitchell and Garland's minutes are staggered, meaning that at least one of them is on the court at all times. So Jerome's job is often to make life easier for them. He can do that without the ball, with his ability to spot up and knock down threes, and because he's often drawing secondary defensive assignments, another thing you'll see him do quite a bit is screen to let that offensive star get the switch they want before getting into their own attack. I'd say the big thing he brings to the table though is his extra passing. Anytime he catches the ball against a rotating defense, he's quick to find the open man with pinpoint accuracy, which helps the team extend advantages. He pairs that ability to find openings as a passer with great feel as an off-ball mover, often cutting or floating into open space to make himself a target before quickly moving the ball. With that said though, both Mitchell and Garland know that if there's an opportunity to play in transition, that's where Jerome likes to initiate offense with the ball, and that's usually some sort of high ball screen for him to turn the corner with an advantage. One action they love running for him is double drag, with a screen from a wing and then a big to clear out space for him at the top of the key. And the idea here is to force a weaker defender into the play. The Heat are going to switch Tyler Hero onto the ball after one screen, which means that when he sets up the pick and roll with Mobley, he's got the weakest defender on the floor, making it much easier to get to his spots. Sometimes though, they'll just go to a normal high ball screen in early offense, and if he's got space, he's hunting for the pull-up three. If you include the regular season and the playoffs, he's attempted 146 off-the-dribble threes this year, and he's made a scorching 43.2% of those opportunities, which is the second highest of any player with at least 100 attempts. So that shot is the first thing defenses have to worry about when he comes off of screens. But say the big is back and drop, and his defender stays close enough to not give him the jumper. That's when you'll see him use his body to either trap that defender on his hip or bump them off, setting up his signature floater. During the regular season, there wasn't a player in the NBA who attempted floaters at a higher rate than Jerome. Per 36 minutes, he was taking over 5.5 floaters, which ranks first, and that's a shot he hit at a really impressive 56.9% clip. That's more accurate than some of the game's most notable push shots, such as Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein, his own teammate Darius Garland, and even Nikola Jokic. So taking that back to these pick and roll plays, when he turns the corner off of screens, he's not only a threat to step into hyper efficient jumpers, he's a threat to drive into hyper efficient floaters, or he's a threat to force contact and draw a foul. He's not some super high volume free throw guy, but he's pretty savvy with the way he traps defenders and forces them to make contact, and he's also pretty good at using different gathers to go up through the arms of defenders and bait them into fouling. Basically, what I'm getting at is that when he crosses half court and immediately looks to set up the offense with some series of ball screens, the best way to limit his ability to score is just to switch everything, but because of the weapons that the Cavs have alongside him, most teams really don't have the luxury of doing that. With that said though, I do think isolation scoring is one of the few things holding Jerome back from that true all-star level of offensive player. I don't think he's necessarily a bad one-on-one guy, but it's pretty clear to me that he's really held back by some physical limitations. He's one of only a few players in the league with a negative wingspan, and when you couple that with a lack of burst, he has a tough time creating advantages without a screen. If he's looking to drive, rarely ever will you see him get all the way around a defender, which means he's often relying on tougher shots over the top. However, one of the reasons I still think he has a little bit of utility in these spots is because he can score over the top better than most players. I already mentioned how lethal that floater is. He's also really good at decelerating and using slow steps to create separation, so that's something he can access most of the time. Also, it's important to keep in mind that he's still a threat to get to the pull-up three in these spots, even if it isn't quite as prominent as it is off of screens. But I don't view him as the type of player who can handpick matchups and consistently break down a defense one-on-one, which is why I think his usage as an isolation creator is so low. Even in the pick and roll though, you'll see some of these limitations show up at times. If his man isn't hit hard by a screen and forced to recover, he isn't always able to turn the corner and create an advantage. These issues just happen to be mitigated most of the time though, because anytime a screen does land, there aren't many players in the league better at attacking the big. Between the pull-up jumper and the floater, he's got arguably the biggest weapons for punishing drop coverage, and that certainly shows up in the numbers. This season, 74 different players attempted to score on at least 4 pick and rolls a game. Of those 74, Jerome ranked 10th at 1.03 points per possession, which is higher than some notable names like Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, and both of his all-star teammates. And for that reason, those guys are comfortable deferring to him as a league creator for extended stretches with the bench unit, especially when he's got the hot hand, which is exactly what we saw down the stretch of Game 1. It started with a high ball screen from Mobley, which the Heat decided to switch. From there, he's going to play one-on-one, and his drive gets cut off, only to stop short for one of those floaters. Then the Heat went to a zone, and he quickly knocked down 2 big threes, including this one from the slot to put them up 10. Then next time down, they went back to man, and instead of running pick and roll, he hunted for a switch onto Hero to play one-on-one. Once again, he isn't able to get around him, but uses one of those crafty gathers to draw a foul. From that point on, they went back to his bread and butter with the pick and roll. This time, Khalil Ware's in a drop, and when Mitchell cheats over from the weak side to tag the roll, Jerome counters by skipping it cross court to Sam Merrill for 3. Next time down, they set it up again, but this time it's Bam who's in a high drop with nobody tagging, so Jerome counters by turning the corner and shoveling it to Jared Allen in the short roll. And then they went right back to it for a 3rd straight possession. Bam's in a deeper drop, so there's no shovel, and Hero does a good job of chasing him off the line, only to get put in jail as he walks into one of those floaters, plus a foul. In an effort to avoid that from happening again, next time down you're going to see Hero go under the screen, to which Jerome pulls up from about 30 feet out, burying his 3rd triple of the quarter. After that, the Heat finally decided to abandon the drop coverage and trap him at half court to get it out of his hands, but by that point, it was already too late. In the first ever playoff game of his career, Ty Jerome delivered a classic. After that 16-point fourth quarter, he finished the game with 28 points on 81% true shooting in just 26 minutes of play. But remember, they trapped him on that last one, and to open game 2, they decided that they wouldn't let him torch them as a scorer, putting 2 on the ball off of every screen. This time he loses the ball for a second, only to recover and throw an absolutely ridiculous skip pass, which gets the defense in rotation and results in a 3-point play for Mobley. I think some of these plays against the more aggressive coverage highlight the difference between him and a true league creator though. After getting blitzed, a top-tier playmaker would likely wait for Allen's roll to materialize before hitting him. Jerome instead looks to the wing to make that decision for him, and they still end up with an advantage, but it required that connective piece. And for that reason, sometimes these actions just don't end up creating an advantage. Again, he's going to draw 2 to the ball off a screen, and with the way the Heat load up in the gaps, the only way to get them into rotation would be with a skip to Hunter in the opposite corner, but he doesn't find it. And it's plays like this why he ends up spending almost all of his time next to either Garland or Mitchell, as they're both true lead creators who can consistently pick apart these coverages. But if you remember, Garland had to miss game 3 with an injury, which meant that when Jerome checked into the game, he'd be the lead creator. Right away, they went to a high ball screen, and again, that big's gonna jump out to pick him up, but he does an incredible job of keeping his dribble live and hunting for an opening to attack. So next time down, they run it again. He comes off a screen, draws 2, and makes a quick read to hit Strus in the corner, who's left with more than enough space to shoot the 3. After that, the Heat decided to go back to a drop, but with an empty corner, there's nobody to tag the roll, as Jerome once again goes back to that left to right shovel pass. Even on some of these plays though, you can see the difference between him and a top tier playmaker. When he draws 2 on this one, I think the best of the best would manipulate the low man and either hit Mobley in the middle or skip it to the corner. He makes the next best decision on a pass to Dean Wade though, where one more finds Mobley underneath the basket for points. Then in the final minute of the quarter, instead of a pick and roll, they decide to let him play one-on-one, to which he hits Jovic with an absolutely filthy hesitation before driving into the paint for that shot he loves so much. In 1 quarter of play without Garland, he recorded 4 points and 5 assists while not even being on the court for 7 minutes. He ended up finishing this game with 13 points, 11 assists, and 0 turnovers as he took on that role of secondary point guard and played it to near perfection. Speaking of turnovers though, arguably the craziest stat from this first round series is that he only turned it over twice total over all 4 games. He touched the ball 197 times, attempted 42 shots, assisted on 19 more, and only turned it over twice. That level of ball security really is just the icing on the cake when you also take into account the fact that he doesn't always pick up his dribble early. Because he only played 23 minutes a game off the bench, I don't think per game averages do his production justice, so I'm going to adjust his numbers to a per 75 possession basis, which is typically around where most stars play. In this series, he averaged about 28 points and 8 assists on 68% true shooting, basically producing at the rate of an MVP caliber player. And the craziest part is that this is just an extension of what he was doing throughout the season. Over those 70 games, per 75, he averaged about 23 points and 6 assists on 64% true shooting, which is why he found himself on most ballots for 6th man of the year. I'd say the cherry on top is that he also isn't a cone defensively. He's got those physical limitations, but has a really good understanding of when and where to be, especially on rotations, so I think he fills a solid role. All things considered, you could argue that he's the best bench player in the league right now, and for a Cavs team that has a historic level of offensive depth, he's playing a vital role in their pursuit of an NBA championship. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Jerome. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.